Hello and welcome to Ideagen TV. Today we are so honored to have with us Lindsay Torrico, Senior Director, Policy and Advocacy at United Way. Lindsay, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you so much for being on. We are so excited to share your insights with our global audience. And so to jump into it, can you tell us a little bit about yourself as well as your roles and responsibilities as Senior Director, Policy and Advocacy at United Way?
Absolutely. So my role is really to build the capacity of our United Way network across the country to do policy and advocacy work at the state, the local, and the national level. My role is also to advocate for our policy priorities, particularly our priorities on education, on financial stability, on workforce, human trafficking, and other issues that are really, really important to our local United Way communities.
That is truly amazing and quite the responsibilities that you have. I mean, those topics that you just touched upon are absolutely essential. And so shifting into the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, as we're looking to achieve them, specifically Goal 10, Reduced Inequalities, what sort of work do you do at United Way to help achieve this goal?
Well, our goal at United Way, our vision is that all people have equal opportunity to succeed. We believe that every community cannot be successful until every person in each community can be successful. So we recognize that there are racial and barriers and also barriers around sexism that exist that contribute to persistent disparities in our communities. And that's why we are committed to focus on issues of equity, particularly our work around gender equity. We launched a campaign this summer called the Women United for Gender Equity campaign to activate our women volunteers across the country to fight for gender equity. We want them to share their stories about the challenges and the barriers that they're facing, and also to get politically engaged in their communities and vote. This year marks the 100th anniversary of the women's right to vote. So that means it's an opportunity for us to reflect on where we've been, but also to push forward on the work that needs to continue to be done.
That's truly amazing. Equal opportunities to succeed. I think that that is absolutely essential now more than ever, and really bridging that gap between reducing inequalities. And so, Lindsay, you were a very successful woman in your career thus far. What bit of advice would you give to young girls that want to follow in your footsteps?
Well, I think there's two things I would mention. One is to be open to new opportunities and avenues. I haven't always had clarity on what my next step is and where I'm going, and that's okay. I think the most important thing is to be open to new experiences, to broaden your network and your outreach to new opportunities, and you'll know when it feels right. And you'll know when you found the thing that really drives you. And the second thing I would say is, it's cliche, but know your worth. I remember as a high school student being very reticent about speaking up in class. And I just pushed myself one day. I'm just going to speak one time in each class every day. And from there, I saw that I was feeling the validation from my teachers and my classmates about what I was saying, and that pushed me to be even more vocal in the conversations I had with people, and pushed me to even pursue new opportunities. So I think whether it's being vocal in the classroom or negotiating a salary, we have to fight for ourselves. We have to advocate for ourselves as women, and we have to know our worth. We have to have confidence in ourselves to move forward. So those are the two things that I would want to highlight to young women.
Incredibly insightful. I mean, knowing, finding your drive and knowing your worth. I think those are two really good points that if more people were to understand that and really speak up, I mean, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals very well could be achieved. And so that's absolutely amazing. And, you work to improve education, increase job opportunities, and empower individuals. With the current situation of the COVID-19 pandemic, how do you feel that this has impacted our progress towards achieving those UN SDGs?
Well, I think there's no question that COVID-19 has had a huge impact on the progress we're making on the SDGs. Unfortunately, we've heard from the World Economic Forum that COVID-19 is setting back the women's rights movement, gender equality by decades. And it's also having a big impact on child poverty and human trafficking and these other real challenges in our communities. And so I think we need to work quickly and comprehensively and collaboratively to make sure that we are addressing the root challenges around COVID-19, because it's going to have a long-lasting impact, permanent damage on our communities if we don't.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. It certainly will have a long-lasting impact. And you had mentioned some of this, but with everything that has been happening today, you know, these racial inequalities, these large gaps that we're seeing, what do you see as one of the biggest inhibitors in reaching those sustainable development goals and achieving them?
Well, I think there's a lot of great work that's already underway, and I don't want to diminish the progress that we've made, and many organizations have been stepping up to lead this work. You know, I also think it's important that we provide education and awareness, particularly to young people, about what the SDGs are and why they're important. I think many of our young people, particularly in the United States, don't fully understand what this means and what role they can play in supporting it, particularly on issues like climate change that are important to this younger generation. So I think we need to make the case for why these goals are important to everyone, and we also need to provide them with a blueprint and a plan for what role they can play in supporting these goals in their communities.
Absolutely. I mean, I think, you know, providing education and awareness to younger generations is essential. I was lucky enough to learn about the UN SDGs in my undergrad course, but many people don't have that opportunity. And
That's right.
Giving that, providing that, being able to have a resource for them to learn about it certainly will make us a large step forward in achieving those goals. And so, you know, we had just talked about it a little bit, but what do you think is the best approach for achieving those goals? Is it education, awareness? Is it a combination? Is there some other aspect to it that you think is essential in approaching to achieve them?
Well, I think education awareness is certainly part of this work. I think policy has to be the other important component, policy and grassroots mobilization. And so once we've provided people with information about what this is and why they have a stake in this work, we've got to provide them with ways that they can support it. And that includes contacting their elected officials and encouraging their elected officials to take on policies that are going to address the challenges around the SDGs, whether that's climate change legislation, whether that's legislation on education or jobs. And so policy obviously is important to me, but I think I see that as a critical piece to addressing the issues around the goals.
Absolutely. Policy and grassroots mobilization. I think that a lot of them would, you would see great progress if that in combination with awareness and education was really brought to the forefront.
Right.
And so moving on here, you know, why is cross-sector collaboration and innovation so vital to helping to solve so many of the world's most vexing issues like the UN SDGs? And to go a little bit further, how do you infuse collaboration into your daily mission to successfully achieve your goals?
Well, I think at United Way, we believe that we can only be successful if we're working in collaboration with public and the private sector. The challenges in our communities are overwhelming. And we know that so many people are hurting right now. So to be able to effectively address them, we have to take a comprehensive approach and work with everyone in all sectors, collaborating to address these challenges. So this has to be work that not one sector or not one institution can do on its own. In terms of my own work, I work closely with our corporate partners our union partners, our labor unions, as well as our nonprofit partners on our policy work. So when we work on a policy issue, we make sure that we are engaging all different types of partners to ensure that we have broad support and buy-in and collective action from all of those different stakeholders. And so my policy work is constantly about building relationships, coalition building, and looking for ways that we can work with folks on on different sides of the aisle to get our policy work done.
That, it's amazing to hear that United Way is engaging multiple sectors to achieve their goals. I mean, at Ideagen, we believe that it's essential. One of our main missions is to foster cross-sector collaboration, and it's one of the favorite things that I've seen while working here. And so what has been one of your favorite programs or projects that you've worked on throughout your career, and why?
There's a lot of different projects I've been able to work on at United Way. I think one that's really comes to mind because it's most recent is our work around civic engagement. So in May, we launched a campaign called United We Count, United We Vote, which is focused on encouraging every person to be counted and to register to vote and then get out the vote in the upcoming election. And this is a cross-sector collaboration. We're working with our business partners, we're working with our union partners, we're working with civic organizations to make sure that everyone has the tools and the resources to be able to make their voice heard this year. Because we know that people who are actively engaged in their communities are more likely to be healthier, more educated, and to be more successful. So this is really about providing our communities with the resources and the tools to be able to fight for themselves and to advocate for the issues that are important to them.
That's absolutely amazing. Lindsay, you've given some amazing insights throughout the conversation today. And so to really wrap things up, what is your post-summit ask for our global audience as we continue to change the world?
I think what I would say is not to lose hope. This is a challenging time around the world. So many people are struggling with losing their jobs or making sure that they have food on the table or helping their children who may be at home right now. And so sometimes this work, as I mentioned, can be overwhelming. It can feel too big for us to address in any concrete way, but we can't lose hope. We have to stay committed to the work. We have to persevere in the fight, and we've got to work together to identify what are the right solutions, public and private solutions to address it. So I would just encourage us to keep engaged, keep fighting, because we're not going to address these challenges without every person doing their part to support it.
Can't lose hope and have to persevere. I mean, that is absolutely amazing. And thank you so much for all the work that you've done and the work that United Way has done. Lindsay Torrico, Senior Director, Policy and Advocacy at United Way. Thank you so much for joining Ideagen today.
Appreciate it, and thanks for the time to chat with you.